Hey there, friends. Hello, hello. Hey, have you ever wondered if psychics are actively helping solve missing person cases, or if intuition actually plays a role in the investigators finding somebody who has been missing? So recently, I posted a short video about the Nancy Guthrie case out of Tucson. Nancy is an 84-year-old woman who went missing earlier this year. And this short video created a lot of conversation. Almost 10,000 people watched the video, hundreds of people have commented on it and sent me messages and are curious. And the question that they keep asking over and over again is, are psychic detectives actually working this case? And do they work cases like this? And the answer is yes, they do. And they are. And so today we're going to talk about something that I think a lot of people don't understand. And that is how psychic detectives work these cases and how our work actually uh, helps support police and search and rescue teams, etc. And also what intuitive information looks like in real investigations and how our intuition works alongside the traditional investigative methods to help support finding people and bringing them home and oftentimes solving the case. Because I have been a part of a group called Find Me for almost 20 years, I feel that with all of the questions that have been coming up, that this is a great topic to share some information and be able to help you understand how we work and the kind of ins and outs of working missing persons cases. So with my Find Me organization, we have solved 100 plus cases, and we have contributed information to help support police in hundreds and hundreds of cases. And just recently, we actually have had an invitation to share with law enforcement some of the information connected to the Nancy Guthrie investigation. So because this is an active case, I am not going to be sharing any details about my own intuition, impressions, or information about the case, because that really would be out of integrity. But what I am going to do is I'm going to explain to you how we use our intuition and our gifts to make this actually happen. Because I think when people hear the word psychic detective, they have ideas and impressions of what that might mean, and it may not necessarily be what it actually is. And I think once you understand how our intuition comes into play and how it works in situations like this, then you start to realize the importance of intuition, that it's not like just this mystical type of thing, that it's actually really a natural human experience. And I want to create some more awareness around that. So welcome, my friends, to Soul Talk. Let's get started.
Soul self-service, that's the way. Welcome to Soul Talk. Shine today.
So welcome to Soul Talk, where soul meets real life. I am Dawn Johnston, and this is a space for us to come together and learn how to walk this human experience with awareness, presence, and heart. And this is a place where we talk about real things, spiritual things, real life, and how we can open up and connect and be more in tune intuitively, spiritually in our everyday life. So I'm very grateful you're here. Thanks for joining us, and let's dive in, friends. All right. So when people hear the phrase psychic detective, they have an idea, a vision, an imagination that someone is like having these dramatic visions that solve a crime instantly. And the reality of it is that actually isn't really how it works. I would love for you to throw in the comments right now. What is your vision of a psychic detective? What is your understanding of a psychic detective? How do you think that we work? What do you think we do? It's always interesting to me to understand and hear your perspective because in some areas you're probably right, and then in other areas there's probably an exaggeration because TV, movies exaggerate the things that create more drama and create more chaos and pain and fear and all of that. And so the reality of psychic detectives is really much more simple, I think, and really a lot quieter than what people imagine. So let's start with just the psychic detective. What is a psychic detective? Well, what we're doing, what we are, is we're just someone who is using our intuitive perceptions to tune into the energetic impressions that are connected to a person, a place, a circumstance, or a situation or an event. And we're using our intuitive abilities, our seeing, our hearing, our feeling, our sense of smell, our sense even of taste. I know that sounds kind of funny, but sometimes we receive messages through that form as well. And so instead of looking at, um, you know, fingerprints and um, door locks and security cameras and uh, digital records or evidence around an environment, what we're doing is we're tuning in to the energy. We're tuning into the frequency. And as we do that, more information starts to show up. E- Every person, every human being has uh, what I would call like an energetic signature. And when something major happens, a traumatic experience of some sort, it leaves almost like an energetic imprint in the space and in the field. And so, over the years, I've had the opportunity to be a part of many, many, many missing persons cases. Um, and I think psychic detectives work in a lot of different ways. Sometimes a family member of somebody that's missing reaches out. Sometimes the investigators actually reach out and are looking for help most of the time because they have no other place to go. And there are times even where community members uh, ask if we can help. And I think that different psychic detectives work in different ways. And, certainly that is not my primary title. It's something that really came about uh, in a unique way, which I'll share in a few minutes. But the way that we get involved is generally through family member, police, investigators that create an awareness, or we hear about a case and we start to get those senses and those knowings, and then want to share those impressions with police that could offer a different perspective. And so when a psychic investigator is tuning into a circumstance or a situation where somebody is missing, for example, we are not intending or trying to replace an investigation. What we're doing is we're looking at it from a different perspective and a different layer of information. And as we're looking at it, instead of asking what an investigator would ask is like the physical evidence, we are looking into the energetics of it. We're looking into the energetic impression that we feel or that maybe the energy that we see, that the impressions might come through as visions, as symbols, as signs. Sometimes it'll come through as environments. Sometimes it'll be sensations or emotional impressions that are connected to the circumstance or the situation when it happened. And a lot of the times it comes in pieces, like there's little fragments of information. And as a psychic investigator, our job then is to kind of glue all of that together to create some information that could be valuable to the investigators. And I think that, one of the things that are so important to me is that we we be ethical in our psychic detective work, because this really needs to be handled with care. There are people, emotions, experiences, etc., that are involved, um, and hearts that are hurting. And as a psychic investigator, I think that's part of what attracted me to serving in this way, is that I could create an opportunity to maybe see things from a different perspective that could help create healing, get answers, create closure for people. And actually, that's how I got started in this. So let me share with you a little bit about my backstory and how being a psychic investigator even became part of the journey that I've been on for the last 25 years in this field. So I think it was 2006. I had recently just watched a television show, and I just saw a clip of it, just a very short clip of a news broadcast. Uh, that I was literally just came downstairs and I walked in front of the television and I saw an image on the TV of a woman that was missing here in Phoenix, Arizona in 2006. And I just saw her picture and that was it. And then I went in the kitchen and I cooked dinner and I didn't think anything of it. But that night when I went to bed, she came to me in my dream. And when she came to me, she showed me what happened to her. And when I woke up, I was like, "Oh my God, that was the missing woman." And I didn't really know what to do with it at that time. I was 5, 6 years into my professional career as a psychic medium. And I had just started to embrace the mediumship aspect of my abilities. Those were something that I really struggled with for a long time, because as an empath, I would feel the energy and the emotion of the loss when I was doing mediumship readings, and so it was hard. It was difficult, um, it required a lot of my energy, and so I really I didn't even wanna do it for a long time, but I'd had an experience a couple years earlier that had directed me to start doing mediumship. So when she showed up in my dream, I recognized her immediately, and she showed me, the desert and a particular area and a particular town, and I knew that I needed to share that. I knew that I needed to somehow um, contact the police to share with them some of the information I got. But I was scared to do that because, well, just for a variety of reasons, and I had never done something like that before. And so I didn't do anything that day. And then the next night, she came to me in my dream again, and the next night, and the next night, and probably 3, 4, 5 nights into it, I'm like, all right. And so I actually called the police, and I said, hey, I'm a psychic medium, and I haven't ever done this before, but I've been being visited by this woman, and I wanted to tell you what I'm seeing, because maybe that can help with I was very naive. I had no idea what to say or how to say it, and so the woman at the department said, okay. And she started, she took my name and things like that. And so I'm like, oh, okay, good. I felt like I was doing my part. I was doing what I needed to do to share this information. And then I shared with her a couple of things, and she said, "And how do you know this?" And I said, "Well, it came in my dream. It was part of what she showed me in my dream." Then she started asking questions that were pointing at me, and that's when all of a sudden I realized, oh, yeah, I don't know that they're receptive to this, and now it feels like she's asking me, like interrogating me with some of these questions, which scared me. So I hung up the phone. Well, the police know where you are and they can call you right back. And they did. And I just said again, hey, she's just been coming to visit me in my dreams. And these are just the things that I'm seeing. And so this experience with this particular situation went on. She came to me in my dreams consistently for 2 weeks, every single night. And they were very detailed. It was very emotional. I became obsessed with this situation and with this case. And I also didn't know what else I could do to help. And so every night I would go to bed and have her come into my dream, which was really just a visitation. It wasn't a dream. We call it a dream, but actually was her coming to me, visiting me, giving me this information, giving me these insights, showing me where she was buried, showing me who had done it. Like I had all the pieces, um, but I didn't know what to do with it. And then at the very end, uh, somewhere in that time frame, I can't actually remember which day, the dream said to me, if they don't get him now, they're not going to. And I wasn't sure how to interpret that, but it felt to me like he wouldn't be here. He wouldn't be alive to give the answers, tell him where the body was, etc. And 2 days later, that's exactly what happened. He took his life, and they had no information and no answers, and I was very traumatized by that, feeling like, gosh, if I would've called the police again, something like that, maybe I could have made a difference. And it took about 4 months, I think it was 4 months, for them to actually find her body. And it ended up that her body was in the desert, exactly the way that she had shown me, and that the news conference was exactly in the town that she had shown me. And so I realized, holy shit, I could have made a difference if I would have had a way to connect and communicate with the police department, the investigators. Now, that doesn't mean that they would accept our information. That doesn't mean that they would help. That doesn't mean that they'd have anything to do with us. But that was the experience. That then a couple of months later, a gal that I was an acquaintance with happened to mention an organization that was just starting, that was looking for psychics to work on missing persons cases. It literally was maybe 3 or 4 weeks after that experience. And so I reached out to them and I became a part of that group. They vetted me and they vet all of the psychics, and it became uh, an area that I volunteered my time. We're all volunteers. We don't take any money. And we have worked almost 20 years. I've been with them. If it was 2006, it has been 20 years. I just can't remember if it's 2006 or 2007. And we've worked hundreds of cases. And we have gone on location. We've traveled all over the world to work cases. We've filmed a few documentaries. There's a lot of things that have gone into really just using our gifts and our tools to help people uh, have some closure. And so the organization that I became a part of, the name of it is Find Me. And it is a group of individuals who volunteer their time as psychic investigators. We also have search and rescue. We also have search dogs that are a part of our sister organization that we work with. And the head of our organization was an ex-DEA agent and also worked with missing and exploited children in his career. And so this was like a perfect place to be able to bring my gifts and my talents and serve humanity and make a difference and support those that were open to psychics, which is not everybody, believe me, friends, uh, and uh, maybe help resolve some cases. And so it's been a this is an amazing group of people. And over the years, we've had up to, I think, 150 plus psychics. And then, it kind of ebbs and flows at different times. And it's not something that most of us really talk about in public a lot. I think we do our work and we do it more quietly, we do it respectfully, and we don't share a lot of the information that we get, especially if we're working on high profile cases, because there is an understanding that we have that the investigators and the families are the ones that are, number one, need to invite us in, and they're really leading the search. And, over the years, our group has solved many, many, many cases. I think it's over 100 cases that we've solved. And then we have contributed information that has led to whether it's arrests or finding the missing persons in hundreds more cases. And oftentimes, those impressions that we get as psychics point literally to a latitude, longitude, location. Sometimes it's information like the circumstance that the person went missing under. Sometimes we give more of the emotional components that were happening when the situation occurred, so that investigators maybe have a different perspective of uh, the context that that person maybe went missing under. And then sometimes we have knowings and knowledge of information like license plates or addresses or specific names of people. Any and all of that information comes to us and through us, and all of us as psychics have different talents. We have forensic astrologers, we have remote viewers, we have mediums, we have psychics, we have people that are more of the clairvoyant, some that are more of the clairsentient, and then we have, of course, our search and rescue team and dogs. And so we really have uh, these amazing tools that can help support investigators. Some investigators are very open and they receive our information really well, and many are not. And that's just kind of part of the deal. Most of the time, when people finally come to our group, it's because we're their last choice, we're the last option. And in this specific case with Nancy Guthrie, the reason I wanted to share this is because I've had so many people ask me if I'm working this case, and Sunny, would you please help? And what I want to remind you of, you guys, the most important thing is that this work has to be very respectful. These are real people and they're real families, and there's real pain. And it's one of the reasons why those of us that agree to do this work, at least with this organization, we agree to do it together as part of an organization. Now, we don't do it together as far as coming together and then work on the case. We all do it individually, but we share that information and it goes to our gosh, I don't know what to call him, president of the organization, and then he kind of pulls everything together. And when we give that information to the appropriate people that are involved in the investigation that can do something to create, to use some of this information, um, we don't really know what happens with that information after that, at that point. And a lot of times people say, well, hey, what are you getting? What are you feeling? And I feel like it's really important to remind people that most of us are very mindful not to share our impressions publicly when it is a case, it's an active case that we're working on, um, because we want to respect the family. We also want to respect the investigation. And the challenge is that there's so many internet sleuths now that feel like, oh, well, this happened and this happened. Everybody has an opinion. And that creates a lot of noise and it doesn't necessarily help the investigators. Now, if you have a real tip, absolutely, we want those. But people that are just bringing out all these ideas and all these allegations, I think create more density and more chaos uh, than um, than lightness and possibility. So, in the situation with Nancy Guthrie, one of the things that has just come across in the last couple of days. So when I did the video, probably a month ago or so, when she first went missing, it was to respond to everybody that was asking me, "Will you please work this case? Please give them the information." We can't just go in and give our information. They're not open in that way, and so we have to create. We have to go through the right process. And we did have um, the lead in our organization has been now in contact with the investigators in the Nancy Guthrie case, and there is a small group of us that are working on this case. And so I did want to let you know, especially those of you that have been asking, we are working this case now, and so information is being um, um, put together and sent to them as we work the case. Now, how do we work these cases? That might be something that you're curious about. And I think a lot of times there are um, some misconceptions around, as a psychic investigator and as a psychic medium, how information comes, why it comes, how it comes in the way that it comes. And I guess what I want to start with is that our intuition comes in a variety of different forms. You know, we see it, we hear it, we feel it, we know it, we sense it. Sometimes there's smell and taste involved in it. And when we are working an investigation, it's almost like there is uh, an energetic footprint of the event. And when that circumstance or that situation happens, the energy of that kind of ripples out. And then those of us that are tuned into that, we start to feel and see and connect with the energy of what has happened. Now, remote viewers are going to do it a little bit differently than clairvoyants, are going to do it a little bit differently than clairsentience. And you may even have had experiences kind of similar to this. Like, for example, if you have walked into a room and you immediately feel like this tightness or this tension or this deep sadness or heaviness, and nobody told you what happened, nobody told you that anything went on, but your intuition uh, is reading that kind of energetic imprint, right? Have you had that happen? I'm certain many of you have. If you have, throw that in chat. I'd love to hear it. I always love to hear your stories of how this works for you. And so that's like the average everyday person has those experiences. So psychic detectives, what we've done is we train ourselves to notice those things very, very clearly, very intentionally, and recognize them. And then what we do is we take the information that comes to us and we organize it in a way that makes sense for the investigators. So it's almost like a police report of sorts, where we're going to give information about the person that's missing, where we believe they are. That is latitude and longitude points of where they are, where, if they're alive or if they're deceased, where are they? Where's their body? Where are they if they're being hidden somewhere? Um, and then we also give information about, it might be license plates, it might be addresses, it might be a city or a state or a vehicle. It might be the condition that they left in or that they went missing in. It might be who's involved in that case. Um, who else might be a part of it? Is it somebody that they know? Oftentimes it is, but it isn't always. Is there a bigger picture? Is there something more than just this person going missing? Are there other links to other people, other organizations that are involved? And all of these things, as we kind of take the imprint and tap into the energy of it, start kind of creating and guiding us towards an awareness and some insight into what happened to this person, where they are, who has them, how they went missing, and how specifically our biggest goal is how can we support the investigators in finding a resolution. And I think one of the things, so that's kind of the process. And then once we as detectives in this particular organization, once we fill out the information that we get, then we submit that to our leader. And what he does is he puts all that information together in a format that the investigators can follow up on. And then it's out of our hands and it goes into their hands. And we often don't actually even know what they follow up on or not, if they have questions or not. They oftentimes will work with um, our organization and follow through, and sometimes they don't. And that part, we can't do anything about. We just show up and volunteer our time and our energy and our resources, um, and then hold the vision that it provides some clarity and that there's follow through and that it leads to an end result of either finding someone alive, which is obviously the best option and the one that happens the least amount of times, and or at least finding a body and giving the family closure. Now, intuition isn't perfect, and it doesn't just speak to you and say, okay, go to this corner of blah blah and blah blah and turn right, go 4 houses down, turn in, and then this is where the body is. Like, it doesn't work that way. Intuition is symbolic, and the impressions that we get, we use those in connection with the physical evidence. um, and I think that's important to remember. And I think also, as psychic investigators, our job, we never want to interfere with an investigation, but what we do want to do is we want to enhance it, we want to expand it, we want to help create different awareness than maybe what the investigators are aware of, because they're looking at just the visual, physical environment, and then looking at the layers. And we kind of look from the energy down, and they look from the physical up. And so the goal is to meet in the middle, or to give them enough information that it brings answers to to the investigation and to the families who are searching for that person that they love. And so when we talk about cases like Nancy Guthrie, and I've heard so many opinions, and I don't listen to the news and I don't watch anything around this because, number one, it's just, I don't think it's healthy, and I think it can be really toxic. But I understand a lot of people have interest and fascination and are praying for her and for the family. I think it's really easy to kind of get um, interested and maybe even enmeshed in the mystery of what happened, and they become fascinated with it. They start to tell their own stories, and and I think that it's important to remember to have respect for the people that are involved, and be mindful of what you share and what you talk about on social media because people do see it and people do hear it. And I understand oftentimes people's intentions are good, but also oftentimes people's intentions are entertainment. People's intentions are for money, and we have to be mindful of that. Uh, you know, the part I want you to recognize is that intuition, my intuition, your intuition, it actually works. It works in the real world in cases. We have solved many, many cases, had closure for families that maybe otherwise wouldn't have ever had it. So intuition isn't something that's just showing up in your meditation time every morning. It's showing up in your everyday life. And you may not be a psychic investigator. You might be somebody that, you feel like, yeah, I get some intuition once in a while. And what I want to encourage you to remember is listen to that intuition because it is showing up in your everyday life. It is in your decisions and in your relationships and in the moments where you feel like something is off. My goal with this podcast and my goal in life, and it has been for the 42 years that I've been in this field, and certainly for the last 25 that I've been working in this field professionally, is to help people recognize and understand their intuition, to embody their intuition, to trust their intuition. And when something keeps kind of nagging at you, it keeps popping in, popping in, popping in, there is there's a reason, and pay attention, right? As a psychic investigator, doing this work with the Find Me group over the last 20 years, it really has taught me uh, a lot. Working cases, going out in the field and working cases has been so challenging and such a blessing and a gift at the same time. And what I can tell you that I've learned is that intuition, a lot of times people feel like it's like this big dramatic thing. It isn't. It's so much more subtle. And you have to be quiet enough to listen. And sometimes those impressions that show up will be very strong. And sometimes they are very subtle. And both matter. But it isn't always like this, like the picture falls off the wall kind of thing to get your attention. And as somebody who has worked so many cases and has been in this field for so long, I want to just suggest to you uh, that your intuition is calling you, and that if you're fascinated by like the psychic investigation aspect of it, that might be a sign for you to develop your intuition. Does that mean that you're going to do psychic investigation work? I don't know, maybe. I certainly have taught a lot of classes, a lot of mediumship classes where we focus on some psychic investigation. And there are some people that have been students that have ended up working in this group with me. So that is a possibility. And your intuition is there to help support you and guide you first and foremost. And then as you get more and more clarity and it becomes more and more grounded, absolutely is there to serve others. And I think what's most important is that intuition, when we use it responsibly and when we use it respectfully, it becomes um, another way of tuning in and tapping into the world around us, not just using our physical ears or our physical eyes, but what's not being said, maybe what's not being shown. And that ability is not just reserved for special people. You are the special person. We all are the special people. We all have that ability. If you are a spirit in a body, then you have the ability to tap in and to connect with your intuition. And it's just learning how to develop that skill, which can lead to a variety of things, like being a psychic investigator. So, um, I hope that this answers some of the questions that many of you have been having about psychic investigation. If you have other questions, I'm going to be answering your questions in the heart to heart segment in just a few minutes. But first, I'm just curious about something that I'd like to ask you. Have you ever had a moment where your intuition told you something before you had any proof? So maybe you had this sense of something that was going on with a particular person, or maybe you did walk into a room and you felt something that just felt off, or maybe a situation where you didn't know why, but you had an awareness of a situation that nobody told you about, right? I would love to hear um, and have you share your experience in the comments because I read them and I love hearing your experiences. And that also gives me information as to things that you're most excited about or that you want to learn more about. So if you've had an experience like that, then please share that in the comments. And if this conversation has resonated with you at all, please make sure that you like and subscribe and follow the podcast and also share it. And you can find them all over. So YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever podcasts are. All right, friends. So now a quick word from our sponsor. So today our sponsor is the School of Light. The School of Light is my school that I have created in the past year, and it is a modern spiritual learning community where people explore personal growth, intuitive development, spiritual connection in a grounded and practical way. Inside the School of Light, we focus on three core paths: soul, self, and service. Soul is your spiritual connection, self is your personal growth and development, and service is how we bring our gifts out into the world. And there's lots of ways we bring our gifts into the world, and psychic development and psychic detective work can be one of them. So, through classes, community, mentorship, retreats, and events, people will strengthen their intuition, deepen their awareness, and learn how to walk through life with more clarity and more purpose. And speaking of that, on April 7th, I am hosting a free live webinar called, what is it called? Meet Your Spirit Team. And so in this class, you're going to learn who's hanging out with you. What are the energies around you, your angels, your spirit guides. And I'm actually going to walk you through a process to learn the name of your guardian angel and the name of or the name of your master guide. So I'll walk you through that journey to connect even more with the team that's already around you and that team that's helping you to develop your intuition in this physical world. All right. So you can join live on Zoom and register to receive the replay. So we're going to throw the link right down here so you can get registered. schooloflight.biz/webinar. And again, if you have a heart-centered business and you'd like to sponsor an episode of Soul Talk, we'd love to hear from you. Just send me a message, sunny@schooloflight.biz. All right, friends, let's come back to our conversation. So it is time for our heart-to-heart segment. Take a breath with me for a minute, will you? Yeah, this is one of my favorite parts of our time together each week. Our heart to heart segment is where we bring conversations into real life because these conversations are actually purposeful to your everyday life. It's going to show up in your relationships and in your decisions and in moments where you're not really sure what to do next. Or maybe it's something like the psychic detective stuff that you've always been interested in and never really knew how it worked. And maybe you have some questions around that. So if you are joining me live right now, you can ask your question in the chat or hit that button and you can come on and join me live in person and have your cute little face right here next to mine and ask me your question. If you're listening later or watching later on YouTube or listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you can submit your question in the comments Or you can go to schooloflight.biz/heart to heart with Sunny and ask your questions in advance. All right. So let's get that energy going.
Heart to heart with Sonny, where your voice is heard. Songs are conversations, life in every word. Bring your questions, bring your truth. We're here to explore. Heart to heart with Sonny, open up the door.
All right. So it is our heart to heart with Sunny time. We get questions that are sent in advance, and then we can answer your questions in the chat. So I want to invite you, if you are joining me live, to go ahead and throw your questions. Do you have questions about psychic detective work? Do you have questions about how we work cases, or any other question that you might have? This is your time. So I did have a couple of questions that I got in advance. So I'm going to answer those first, and then we will go to the chat and see what questions you all have for me as well. All right. So the first question is, can anyone develop stronger intuitive awareness? I feel like there's other people that are just more intuitive than I am. Am I missing something? All right. So you're not missing something, but maybe you aren't as present as you could be. So when we are developing our intuition, when we are wanting to build our skills and get stronger in those areas, it's kind of like a muscle. You have to learn to develop that skill and build that muscle. And so it's putting it into practice. And my suggestion is always to be in a class, in a workshop, go to, you can certainly read books, but experiential development is one of the best things that you can do, where you're in with people that are working on the same thing you are, and you are practicing in an environment that is safe to learn and grow in, and is also being guided by somebody who knows what they're doing. Like, that makes a difference. So I would really encourage you to get into some kind of intuitive development group. We provide intuitive development classes in my Elevate community every week because I think it's that important, especially as we step into the world that we're living in now, with AI being very much a part of our day-to-day life. There are things that you are seeing, things that you are hearing, that you need to be able to learn how to discern for yourself if they are real or not, because you're not going to be able to know the difference between what's real and what isn't real with your eyes and with your ears. You're going to have to learn to listen to that intuitive guidance. And so taking classes will absolutely help you to develop your skills. And yes, you can open yourself up. The key, friends, to developing your intuition is presence. You have to be present in this moment right now. Spirit speaks in present moment, not in the future. That doesn't exist. Not in the past. That is over. This present moment, this is where Spirit speaks. And so if you are not present, you miss the messages, you miss the signs. And when you miss those signs, then it's not that it's good, bad, right, or wrong. You just missed it. But if you're asking to be more tapped in and tuned in, you have to practice presence. So that would be my suggestion for you. Okay, really great question. All right. Why do some people naturally feel energy more strongly than others? That's a great question. I think that it's interesting because I think that people that are more sensitive, a lot of times you might have heard the term empath, people that have a tendency to feel energy on a deeper level, probably also absorb the energy of others, which isn't a great thing. You've got to learn how to manage that and maintain that energy. But I think oftentimes people that had difficult challenging childhoods are more sensitive and more aware of that sensitivity because they are on high alert. They are being very, very perceptive. And so that supports, it's almost like, everybody's talking about calming your nervous system down and regulating your nervous system. And yes, that's very valuable. And we all need to do that and work on that, myself included. And the experiences that you had in your past that created that activated nervous system are the very things that help you more be more sensitive to the energy that's around you. Now, you can learn how to, as an adult, be the observer, not the absorber, and not be in that activated state. Absolutely, you can do that. And it takes some awareness and it takes some practice so that it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to stay in that kind of hyper vigilant place. But I think that oftentimes people that are more sensitive and more perceptive, it comes from having to be that way when they were younger and using that as now a gift. Basically, it's a gift that's expanded our intuitive abilities. Okay, great question. All right, let me go to a couple of questions that are coming in live, and let's see what we've got here. How do I tune more into what my dreams are telling me? Okay, great question. First and foremost, I would start a dream journal, and only dreams go in that journal. And so the way that I teach my students is that at night before you go to bed, you take a glass of water up to bed with you. And when you go to bed, you take a drink of your water and you put an intention out to the universe, spirit, God, creator, angels, guides, whatever you connect with. And you make an intention that when you take your next sip of water, that you have recall from your dream state. Okay, so that's the first thing. Then you keep a notebook and a pen right next to your bed. I mean, you could use your phone, but I don't want you to get the blue light stuff, so I'd rather you keep a little notebook and a pen right next to your bed. And when you wake up, when you very first wake up, that's usually when you have the recognition of the dream. And then usually when you put your body up, when you actually sit up, that's where you start to lose it. And so I always recommend as soon as you wake up, grab your pen and just write down whatever impressions, thoughts, feelings, words come to you from the dream state. Then when you get up, you can actually have kind of the foundation of that and it should activate your recall. And do that consistently. The more that you start to pay attention to the messages that are coming in through your dreams, then the next step, now that you can remember them, is to be able to understand what they mean, right? And so part of that is being able to recognize, is it a prophetic dream that's telling you about something that's coming? Is it a processing dream that is helping you to process something that's happening in your life right now? Is it a healing dream that's actually working on past experiences, or is it a visitation? And those, depending on each one of those, that's going to make a difference also in the information that's coming through the dream state. And then I ask, actually, I just tune in and feel into what the dream was to see what comes to me. Some people go to dream books. That's fine. I would just remind you that the dream books were made for hundreds and thousands of people, not just you specifically. Lots of people now go to ChatGPT and ask, or whatever AI they're using, and ask what this dream means. And sometimes that gets you closer to it. It really depends on what feels good for you, but pay attention to the way your body feels when you receive the information. That should give you a key and a clue into what that dream is representing for you. Okay. How do you remain emotionally detached if you get downloads or hits on what happened in different cases? Um, that's a great question. I think that being emotionally detached is difficult. And so I can't say that I am always great at remaining emotionally detached. What I can say is that what I've learned over the years is how to be the observer and not the absorber. So there may be times where I still feel an emotional connection, like the case that I experienced that led me to the Find Me group. I was very emotionally involved. Like I literally really was obsessed. I felt like it was my responsibility to solve the case and to save. I couldn't save her. I knew she was dead, but almost like to save um, humanity for some reason. Like there's this huge responsibility, but that's my thing anyway. Like that's an issue for me anyway. Um, but what I've learned is how to be the observer and not the absorber, and to be the witness. And what Spirit has said to me is that there's so many things that are happening in our lives on a day to day basis, and we think that because something crosses our path, it's ours to fix, and it's crossing our path because we're at a same similar vibrational frequency as the energy in that particular time. And maybe yes, you can help, and maybe no, you can't help. And you may not necessarily be supposed to help. Maybe you're just supposed to have the insight and send love. Maybe you're supposed to have a recognition and pray, and that serves purpose also. So I think my answer would be that I focus on being the observer and I focus on doing my job. And if I'm going to do my job, then I need to remain the observer in the circumstance and in the situation because otherwise I cannot do my job well. Bottom line. All right, next question. I absolutely love how you're always here for us, either on here or any one of the classes you offer. Thank you. When the empath comes in the form of, say, all of a sudden jumping into your mind or into you, it's so weird. Did you feel like she was relying on you to help her? Can her spirit come to several people at once? Okay, so as an empath, when that energy kind of just pops in, when it just pops in, that's like a claircognizant experience, or you just kind of feel it all over your body. That's a clairsentient experience. And did I feel like she was relying on me to help her? Yes, I did. I felt a huge responsibility. Does that mean that she was just relying on me? No, it does not. I think that they will send signals out to those that are receptive to the signal. And there could have been 1,000 people on the planet that were having similar experiences as I was, and it wasn't up to just one of us. However, I did feel like I needed to do my part. And my part, I did what I felt like I needed to do. And ultimately, I believe that the situation with her actually opened the door for me to then have a space that I could channel my gifts into that could serve humanity, that could make a difference in the world. Some of the cases that we worked, there was a case out of Kansas where my latitude and longitude point was 100 feet from where they found the body in a completely a state that I had never been in. Well, I'd actually been in Kansas, I think, but I'd never been in the town. I knew nothing about anything, but my intuition directed me to this exact spot on a river that his body was stuck under a tree. So I think that when we feel that kind of sense of responsibility, I don't think it's always a great thing, but it is how I work. Um, then it calls us into showing up in a different way, uh, for better or worse. You guys, for better or worse, that's not always the best. And can her spirit come to several people all at once? Percent. Absolutely, they can. It and oftentimes do, but we wouldn't necessarily know who else her spirit is going to, right? Unless those people are all coming together in some place, which is why I think our organization works so well because then we actually do, we don't work the cases together. We do them individually. It's a very private thing. But then we do have a place that all that information is channeled so that then the investigators have the easiest they get to go through the easiest process to take all of that information and put it into one basic report that they can follow through on if they choose to. So thank you very much for that question, Rita. That was a great question. All right, friends. So before we close today, I want to leave you with a little bit of soul work. I'm hoping that you will join me in this, something that you can practice this week. And so this week, I want you to pay attention to your intuition in all the ways, in the small everyday moments, and maybe the big feelings, and just notice what you have a feeling about before you actually have the evidence of it. Notice how your body responds to a situation or a circumstance, not judging it, not creating any pressure, just observing it, and maybe journaling about what that is, and come back and share it. Share your soul work here in the comments. What did you notice? What showed up for you? I always love hearing how that all unfolds for all of you. So I hope you'll join me for some soul work. And friends, as we come to a close today, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for being present. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for taking an hour out of your Tuesday to join me. We will be here every Tuesday, same time, same place now that we have daylight savings time figured out. So noon Pacific time every Tuesday. And remember, if this episode supported you in any way, please like, follow, and share it with someone who might appreciate it. And remember, my friends, always remember, when we allow our divinity to guide our humanity, love becomes the thing that we live every single day. You're not alone, my friend. I'm here for you. I love you. And I will see you next time.
So self-service, that's the way. Welcome to Soul Talk, shine today.